Hey everybody, welcome back. We're here in Point of Pete in Guadeloupe in Sim Update 4 Beta. This is VR, for those of you who can't tell already. We're going to talk about some of the cool changes in VR, some of the performance notes and things like that as we do this flight today. I'm going to go down to one of the really cool World Update 16 airports, Les Saints, off the coast down here to the south, and then we're going to go down to Dominica. So some really cool airports. Going to talk about foveated rendering updates, how the performance is, and one of the really other cool things is that they've made it a lot easier to actually record in VR now, because you can do a single lens or single eye view in OBS, which is great. Which will mean nothing to those of you who don't record. But let's go rotating beacon on, mixture rich. There is no carb heat master and battery switches coming on. I'm going to put the fuel tank on both, and got some fuel flow here. Let's turn the fuel pump on real quick. I will turn that back off. Take a look outside, make sure there's nobody out there to kill or maim. Toes on the brakes. And there's a good start. Throttle up to 1,000. Oil pressure is good. Go avionics master on. We'll go nav lights on. So, the performance in Sim Update 4 Beta in VR is massively improved. Set the altimeters 2 ways. Trim is looking good. Fuel is balanced, although I actually would probably like a bit more of it. Let's lean the mixture. Fuel pump is off. Release the parking brake. We'll go taxi light on. Alright, and let's get the airplane rolling here. As soon as you get the airplane rolling, tap the brakes. Brakes are working. So, really fun to fly in VR in Sim Update 4. It's just, it's a totally different world than previous iterations of Flight Sim 24. I mean, I can basically run the same settings in flat screen now as in VR as I could in flat screen. You can see I got a really stiff crosswind here, so we're gonna put in a nice crosswind correction, which you can't see because I've got the yoke moved here. I got live traffic enabled, live weather, and about 3,000 feet going that way. I'd prefer to have a bit more, to be honest with you. We'll go mixture rich. Strobe light on, landing light on, taxi light coming off. Alright, runway is clear. Heading indicator checks with the runway number. Takeoff power is coming in. Engine instruments are in the green. Airspeed is alive. And a little bit of right rudder on takeoff this time, which is something new. We'll rotate to 55 and off we go. It's wild. I mean, it's like flying. I mean, it's, it was, when I first started flying in VR, and I first tried Flight Sim 24 in VR, it just didn't work. And I thought VR was I thought my headset, my settings, something was goofy. And it turned out that it was Flight Sim 24 that was goofy. Alright, it's 400 feet AGL. We can start our turn out here. Turns out it was Sim Update. It was Flight Sim 24 that was goofy, not any of my settings or anything like that. And I almost gave up on VR. Come to find out, it had never occurred to me to try switching to Flight Sim 2020 and see if VR worked in that, and lo and behold, it did. So of course I realized then that it was 2024 that it just didn't work, VR. And you know, I've since updated to or upgraded to a 4090 from a 3080 Ti, and that makes a difference, no question about it. But I mean, this is just amazing. But I read been doing a lot of reading on VR performance in Flight Sim 24, the Sim Update 4 beta, and one of the things that I read actually recently was somebody with a 3080 Ti, which has got 12 gigs of VRAM, saying that they basically had everything on Ultra. Look at that. And the water just looks incredible. That they basically had everything on Ultra on a 12 gig card, and I mean, that's impressive. And I think they were running TLOD 200, which is basically what I run with the 4090, really. It's just incredible. I mean, the feeling, it's like flying. It's incredible. I still find it a bit, what's the word I'll use? I still find it a bit odd, or a bit difficult in, like, with big airplanes, jets and things like that, because you've got to look around a lot, you know, at the MCDU, at the, you know, all the various inputs and panels and everything, and I just find it a little bit difficult with bigger airplanes. There's 2900, we'll go 3000. Feet below your cruise altitude, just pull your power back until you hear a significant power reduction, and I should come right up on 3000 and 2400 RPM, which is what we're doing here. I'm just going to let the airplane settle. So to me, I mean, you know, and I know people fly jets in VR for sure. And it's incredible. It's also a really different landing feel. But to me, it's really a VFR, or at the very least a small airplane kind of thing, GA airplane kind of thing. But it sure is enjoyable. It really is enjoyable. So we're heading down to... This is the Saints right there. So we'll just skirt the coast here. But I mean, you even get the sense of, like, the feel of, like, these clouds being just over your head. It's just wild. Look at that altitude hold, ladies and gentlemen. So the first airport we're going to, like I said, is in a Sobo handcrafted airport from World Update 16, and it's a fun and a challenging little airport. The second one is right down over there in Dominica, which is another challenging airport, and it's gonna be a lot of fun to fly that one in VR, because you've got to go up the hill and across a ridge and then down a valley. For those of you who use Tobii Eye Tracker 5, which I do, just be aware that you've got to turn that off. You have to turn the receiver off for VR flying, otherwise you're going to get major jitters. Major jitters. And it took me a bit to figure that one out. I mean, it's just amazing to me. It literally feels like flying. Which I know sounds stupid. So one of the things that they've done in Sim Update 4 beta for VR, they have there was a crash that people were getting moving in and out of VR. That's been fixed. Overall performance, I mean, you're going to see huge improvements. I don't know why the airport's not showing up right there. That right there is an old airport. Is an old airport that's no longer there. I gotta remember that my microphone is not right where it usually is. But the airport that we're going to, kind of right in here, right in there. The other thing they've done is they've added a foveated rendering scale. So what is foveated rendering? Foveated rendering came in Sim Update 2, and it basically makes the things around the outside of your field of view a little bit fuzzy, just to reduce GPU load, and everything that is in the center of your screen is going to be nice and crystal clear. And it just makes lowers the performance load, gives you better performance, smoother performance, and that is good stuff. They've added a scale, so you can. There are ways to do it with secondary, like third-party software, which I do use. Good way to descend in GA airplanes is just pull 200 RPMs of power out, and it'll give you a nice gentle descent. But OpenXR Toolkit is how I used to do it, or it's how I still do it. But they've added the feature to Sim Update 2. And they added the render scale to Sim Update 4, so that basically allows you to control how wide you want your field of view to be clear, and what parts of the field of view you're willing to let go a little bit fuzzy for performance gains. And it's quite helpful. So that's a big thing. Just overall performance, CPU and GPU loads are much better. People are seeing, even, and I think VR in Flight Sim 24 is now coming out of the realm of the 24 gig cards. I mean, I think you definitely need some hardware for running VR. There's no question about that. And basically the more VRAM you have, the better. But it's no longer a thing where you have to have. I mean, I remember in the first release of Flight Sim 24. I think my I don't even think my TLOD was 100. I think it might have been 75 or something. I mean, it's just not really that entertaining. Airport is right over there in that little wedge. Airport's right over in here. I mean, even the external view. It's just so cool. It actually may be right over in there. It's not showing on here, which would be nice if I could see the airport on the map, you know. I mean, that's kind of what maps are for, but I guess we shouldn't be too picky, right? We'll go first notch of flaps. Keep the nose down. Yeah, it's over there, a little bit further over to the left than I was looking before. It's just amazing the sense of depth that you have in VR. It's incredible. Pimax, so I'm using the Pimax Crystal Light, by the way, and there's a discount code in the description if you want it. It's a fabulous headset. I really like it. So let's get rid of some speed here. Second notch of flaps. So we really need to get that airspeed down. Alright, so wind is coming. It's a pretty stiff wind, which is actually going to be my friend on this one. You can see the airport right there. Alright, so it's amazing just the feeling you get of closeness to terrain. It's really wild. I haven't done this landing. We're gonna pull some power way out here now. I'm gonna buzz these people. I think the trees are still a little bit tall. Power's all the way out now. Alright. Just had to goose it a little bit there. Whoa. Whoops. Whoops. Alright, that was a little dicey. That was more than a little dicey. That was... Landing in VR is completely different than landing in 2D. And I didn't cover myself in glory on that one, that's for sure. I probably should have gone more flaps, really. But I mean, it's such a stiff wind. I just didn't really think it was necessary. But I just got slow. So here's the little airport. It's just a cool little airport. Nothing special about it, you know. I mean, it's got very nice vehicles that you can drive through, which is good. Alright, so let's see. Let's hope we can do a little better next time out. Just got a little slow on that one. Alright, altimeters are set again. But, I mean, performance is just incredible. I also think the trees are too tall, which doesn't help. But my brain isn't functioning in the same way in VR as it does in 2D. Just because I'm not used to it visually. And it's intimidating. We'll go mixture rich. Go one notch of flaps. We're going to go short field takeoff here. Even though we're going to be off the ground real quick because this is a really stiff wind into us here. Alright, so mixture is rich. Fuel pump does not need to be on. There is no carb heat. So we'll take the... bring the engine power in. Takeoff power is set. Engine instruments are in the green. Release the brakes. And we should be airborne pretty quickly here. Airspeed's alive. Yeah, not that quickly. I'm glad I did a short field. Just gives us the chance to back out if we need to. Kind of a cool departure, no? Alright. Speed is good to bring the flaps up, so we'll do that. Quite a cool departure. Alright, let's go do Dominica. Hopefully we'll get a little better result over here. Alright, let's have a look. That's Marie Gallant over here, which is another really cool little island. I'm trying to become more of a attitude flyer as opposed to always chasing numbers. In other words, keeping that right there. And just, if you can keep your attitude, pitch plus power equals performance. I've always been a scanner. I'll go from, you know, airspeed, vertical speed, altitude. I kind of scan in VFR flight the same way I do in IFR flight, but I don't spend enough time focused on the attitude indicator. That is for sure. So, as we speak, the Formula One World Championship is being decided. I am not watching it because my wife is not here. And Mrs. Island Sim Pilot is as big a fan of Formula One as I am, if not bigger. You can see the cloud layer there on Dominica, and you can see the top of the top of that mountain there, clipping through, peeking through the clouds there. And it's part of what makes this approach challenging. Sometimes you have to stay under a cloud layer, and yet above terrain. Alright. We get back to about 2350 because we're going to come, these RPMs are going to come up as we trim the nose down. That didn't work, did it? Nope. It's going the other way. We'll burn a little bit of fuel out of the right side so that I can get the left leaning tendency out of the airplane. It's really irritating. Planes are so sensitive to any weight imbalance left to right, and it's just not. Flaps are up. I'm just looking to see if I made a fool of myself once again. So as far as the F1 World Championship goes, my prediction is Max Verstappen's gonna win, because it's kind of what Max Verstappen does. I'm an Oscar Piastri guy myself. I like Lando. I really didn't. I was really unimpressed with how his behavior after the Vegas Grand Prix. Where he, during a post-race interview, swore. And it's not like he said shit. He said something really, not good. And it's just, doesn't, you've got, like, my This is gonna sound like a weird thing. This is 2025 for you. My wife's granddaughter, which I guess makes her my step granddaughter, who is a lovely young child of 6 or 7, 6. She watches Formula One, and she loves Lando. I think she loves Lando because she likes papaya. I think she likes the color, which is perfectly reasonable for a 6-year-old girl to love a particular team for a particular color. However, and Formula One is really trying to market itself to families, which I think is wonderful, you know, a family sport. And there was a big to-do about radio chatter, right? Like team radio stuff and radio and swearing on the radio during the race. And I understand the drivers were like, look, this is the heat of competition. You get to listen to every word we say. You know, if you mic'd up footballers or, you know, golfers or baseball players or whatever, yeah, do they swear during the competition? Of course, but you can't hear it because they're not mic'd up. In Formula One, they are mic'd up, and I understand the drivers were like, look, you know, you can't police us too hard on that because it's during the competition. But when the competition's over and you're literally on the podium talking to, you know, the F1 media representative, and he caught himself the first time and he said, I effed up. And then like 3 or 4 minutes later he said, I blanked up. You know, and I just thought, and it's not the first time he's done it this year. And it, you know, what does it bother me? Not really. Would I prefer not to hear it? Yeah. I mean, I just don't think it's necessary in that context. But when you've got kids watching the sport, you know, and it's not even about 6-year-old girls. If you've got 6-year-old boys watching the sport and they're going to get into karting and they like racing, what do you think they're going to say? You know, when the driver that they really like is saying certain things. So I just thought, you know, you could have done better, Lando. And that's not why I don't really favor him in the race. I you know, I just landed. Oscar's just a bit more my personality. My personality type. He's just a little bit more quiet, a little bit more laid back. He goes about his business, you know, and I kind of like that about him. So I'm looking at about 20, maybe 2,200 feet. This is a fun approach. This is a really fun approach. And so you kind of go up the mountain a little bit. And then down the mountain a little bit. Runway 9. So we'll bug that. So the airport's kind of in that next ridge over. As you can see, we are well below the hilltops here. Gonna drop in and say hello to our buddy Cash Collins. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I've been in a landing funk for if I'm honest, for a while now. And landings are like anything else in you know, like you can get a hot putter in golf, you can get a hot hitter in baseball. Flying is no different. Believe me, I can land real airplanes a lot better. But I just have a tough time with sim landings. I don't know why. I don't know why, but I do. I will level off about 2,000 feet here. I think this is the type of landing where it's really important to get yourself organized. I mean, I could just cut right over there and make a nice little groove down the valley, but I just think it's come out here, do pretty much a regular downwind. Get a feel for things. What the advantage of bugging your heading, your runway heading? That's the runway heading. So the runway goes like this. So I know kind of my relationship to the runway. It's right here. I love the external views. I think they're really cool. Alright, let's see here. Notch of flaps. So I'm basically looking at that ridge right over the nose. That's what I'm looking, and you come right down this valley here. I know in the real world they've got one picked out, like exact points to make turns over, but I just kind of eyeball it. And I mean, normally if you have to come in high because of the terrain, and normally if I have to come high, I want a little less airspeed rather than more. But in this case, you can get some turbulence, and you're nice and close to terrain, so I don't want to get too slow either. Alright, mixture is rich. Got one notch in. I see my spot here. Stay on one notch of flaps. For right now. It's funny how you just kind of inherently pull up a little bit. You know, I'm in a slight climb here, which doesn't really make sense. It's just your natural tendency when you're getting close to terrain. can see the valley right there. So I'm gonna go right directly what I'm looking at right there. We're gonna go right over there. Alright. Come out this way a little bit, make the angle back in a little easier.
500.
Yeah. Go next notch of flaps. Ah, that feels really nice. Alright. Boy, this is sweet in VR. Wow. What a different feeling. Alright, let's get the nose pointed down here. 75, I don't want any less than 75. I mean, it's certainly a lot more room for error when you're in a Cessna 172. Which is the entire point of a Cessna 172, by the way. Definitely got a right to left crosswind here. Scenery is from SLH Sim Designs. They do an amazing job. Get over here on centerline. We're getting a little drop and a little slow there. Just not what we want. That displaced threshold right there is to keep you above terrain. I don't like seeing people glide right over the edge of the displaced threshold. It's there for a reason. Alright, now we can bring some power out here. That is a nice crosswind. Look at that. Look at that. That is a nice little crosswind. Hold it on center line. Hold it on center line. Yeah, that wasn't real good. It wasn't, I mean, it wasn't horrible. Whoa. The ground handling is the more difficult thing. Again, not, I mean, I need more. It's just such a different feeling. In the mixture for taxi here. Just such a different feeling. Let's clean up the airplane. Probably clean up our trousers as well. So this is SLH Sim Designs Dominica. We'll just come right up here. Toes on the brakes. Mixture to idle. Cutoff throttle is idle. Lights coming off. Avionics master off before the master and battery switches. Or excuse me, before the mags. Turn the mags off. Set the parking brake. Flaps are up. Master and battery switch is coming off. So, smooth as can be. The sim performance was far superior to my performance, but I don't know. I was happy with the approach. Kept it nice kept the crab in nicely down center line, but not really thrilled with either landing today, but that's all right. So VR, that's VR in Sim Update 4 beta. You guys are going to be really happy when when Sim Update 4 comes out and you've got access to the performance updates, upgrades in Sim Update 4. Again, there is a discount code for the Pimax in the description if you guys are interested. If you have any questions about the Pimax, let me know. I love it and really enjoy flying with it. Very clear visuals, nice and crisp. So anyway, I hope everybody's doing well, and we will talk soon.